We believe the purpose of owning a business is funding your perfect life. Welcome to the next generation of growth and opportunity in the inspection industry. This is the Empire State of Mind. Empire State of Mind. Helping build companies with faster growth, higher profits, and more time freedom. Finally, a podcast for the home inspection industry and beyond. This is the Empire State of Mind. And this is your host, Matt Williams.
Welcome to the show. I am so glad that you're here and you've tuned in today. We have a phenomenal guest with us, and I had the privilege of meeting Greg just a few weeks ago, and I got to tell you, he is a fascinating man who's built an incredible company. He has a great history, and I cannot wait for you also to get to know Greg if you don't already know him. So let me introduce, Greg Fowler, thank you for being here. Welcome to the podcast.
Matt, thanks so much, man. I'm super stoked to be here. Happy to talk to our brethren in the inspection industry. I'm not sure about all those nice things you said about me. I don't think you know me well enough, because none of that's actually true.
Only been a few weeks, I guess. So, yeah. It's true. If I ask your significant other, maybe they'll give me some information.
No, I'm wonderful. That's what I'm gonna. Every day I get up, I look in the mirror, and I'm like, dude, I'm amazing.
Yes,
we got this.
Yes, absolutely. I do stuff like that. Do you do that? Do you hype yourself up in the mirror at all?
If I'm in a bad mood, I like to do the I feel terrific. So if you're in the car and you're ever having a bad day, I would put this out there. To everybody. A friend of mine back in the day taught me this. He's like, man, I was really depressed, and somebody told me that if you get in the car and you're not feeling good and you just scream, I feel terrific at the top of your lungs.
Yes. One
time, two times, by the third time, you will be laughing so hard and you'll be in a good mood. So that's my positivity, hopefully the first good positivity moment of our talk today.
Yeah, that is so good. I know we're calling this Empire State of Mind, but really you have to have a good mindset in order to build a company, because there's a ton of pressure that comes on all of us when we're trying to build something. And it all starts with the leader being the leader. And being able to shout. I love that. I'm going to steal it and start using it. I'm going to scream it. Because every once in a while I get up and I'm kind of in a bad mood or a little grumpy or just, foggy and stuff. But I actually have a morning mantra that I run myself through every day. And I kind of call out the good in my life, and that mantra kind of changes as life goes forward. But I make declarations over myself and over the business and over my family, and I'm just not like they might be. It's like, no, I have been. I am this. They are this, and we will do this. And yeah, man, that stuff. I love it right out of the gate, man. Boom, there's a nugget. So we've got. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry. Oh, man. Well, tell us about you. I know you, but not everybody else knows you. So, Greg, who is Greg?
So I would say I'm at the twilight of my mediocre career here owning a home inspection company. So I grew up in the Midwest. So I'm from Michigan originally, grew up in Florida, moved here to Colorado about 12 years ago. Got my start in business, just working for doctors and hospitals. And I did that for a long time, and I was in the technology field, and I got kicked out of a company, I don't know, a little more than half a dozen years ago. And I thought, oh man, I need to do something else where I don't work for anybody else. And I got a buyout out of that company, and I talked to a buddy of mine, and I said, man, you have a really good idea for a home inspection business. He had sold his company down in Orlando and moved to Colorado. And I said, I like your idea, but you were underfunded. I said, we should start a company here together. And so, that's how I got my professional life. And then personally, like everybody else, I think, you kind of wandered around and hit a few bumps, and I'm kind of a grinder. If I had a personal tagline, I would say it's, I don't make things, I just make them better. Like BASF, yeah. I don't make it, I just make it better.
That's awesome.
And so for me, it's, I read people pretty well. And then, I'm pretty detail oriented. And so I just, it kind of was a natural flow to get into home inspection, and then take my background in management consulting and some other things and turn that into something that we've started to try to get into scale, and started a franchising company and, things about that. But you asked about me. I'm a dad. Got a great better half, and so 3 kids and life, and we're just trying to eke it out, and personally, I finally got into the Leadville 100 mountain bike race, which is a lottery event, and so it took me 10 years to get in, and don't they understand that I'm old now and I don't really need to be doing this. But next weekend I get to ride 100 miles above 10,000 feet in Leadville, Colorado. So I'm the kind of guy who would sign up for something like that and then train all summer instead of going on vacation.
Yeah, you said you get to. I mean, that sounds like a punishment to me, but yeah, I mean, you're looking forward to. That's amazing. That's a lot of distance at a high elevation. I imagine I know you live in Colorado, but you probably still that jump from 6,000 or 7,000 feet of where you're at to 10,000. I bet you feel that. That's a good giant. That's a good size jump. Yeah,
you and I live. We were just talking about this before we got started, but you and I both live at pretty much the same elevation, which is higher than probably 95% or more of the population of our listeners are going to be. Thinking, well, we both live a mile high already. And so this is adding another mile to that. So it's pretty amazing. It's pretty humbling. I will say that you end up hike a bike on some of it because it's so steep. And, you look at the young guys and they pass you and you go, you little bastards. But they, it's crazy. But it's fun. But personally, I guess that's why I like being a business owner is it's a grind, and if you have the capability to grind, and I would imagine if your listeners, they're listening because they want to get better, and and I think it's an attitude, and I've always said that, if it's so cliche, but right, like if it's easy, everybody would do it. It's actually true, if it's easy, like everybody would be a successful business owner, but it's like, hey, companies would be great if it wasn't for the clients,
Yeah, those darn customers,
Those darn, So anyway, those are the things, just those are kind of like set the stage, so people kind of get a sense. Overall, I love people. I love helping people. I like challenging myself. I like learning. And so for me, being a business owner is this great adventure where you get to help people, you get to keep growing, you get to meet great guys like you. And learn. You're always, to me, it's like, hey, what are we listening to? What podcast? What book did you read or listen to recently? Those kind of things. I get jazzed to talk to other business owners, and that's how I got involved in IEB. I was, I don't have a lot of friends that I can talk to about the challenges that all of us are facing in our business every day.
Absolutely, it's hard to find friends. Number one, like I was told once that the biggest miracle that Jesus ever worked was that he had 12 friends when he was over the age of 30, forget everything else. Like the dude had 12 close friends. Tell me more,
Right.
And it's like,
that's a guy worth listening to already.
Yeah. You're like, wow, he got something figured out, and yeah, like it's interesting. Like the older you get, the harder it is to make friends. And
true.
They almost seem like a dating app for like making friends. I don't know if that exists or not, like you can like swipe right, like look at their profile and be like, oh, he owns a business, and like, yeah, we're kind of we're both into hiking and mountain biking, and I'll swipe right on that, and it's just friendship only, and yeah, but I think they need something like that. But yeah, finding friends that are in your own life is always a challenge. But then on top of that, finding somebody who is building a business in a similar, maybe the same, but at least a similar industry, fighting through the same battles and the same struggles, man, it is so hard to find that. And I think that's why IAB is so important for me, and probably important for many other companies and other people, is you get that camaraderie built in, and I also think because you pay for it, because there is a monthly fee to be involved.
Right.
Yeah, you're like, well, I'm paying for this, so I'm gonna get some value out of it. It motivates you to get in there and be like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna waste any money on this. I'm gonna make sure I'm getting my value out of this thing. So Paul, one of the things IEB does, and that's done for me and many others, is that it helps with our mentality and our mindset. Some of the core training that we do here at IEB actually has a lot of mentality type stuff in it. So I'll just ask you, I know we started on this a little bit, but I'm curious,
Sure.
what things do you do that help you set your mind straight, besides screaming at yourself every once in a while?
The biggest thing, I mean, you can see maybe behind you, I have 2 whiteboards there that are set up. I have, I got lists that I transfer, I've got I got an action sheet. So for me, it's kind of like you take all the balls, and you throw them up in the air, and then you're like, okay, one of the books I read recently, or Entrepreneurial Roller Coaster. He says, he got there's a part of one of their things about leadership, and it's, hey, at the end of every day, write down the 6, you've got your list, right? You might have 50 things on your task list, but what are the top 6 things that you should do tomorrow? And then when you get up tomorrow, throw away the 4th, 5th, and 6th thing and do the top 3. Because that's really about all the time you have. So I really have been trying to grow myself as a leader and put the pressure on myself to focus on the right things.
Wow, that's so challenging.
It's hard because you want to get done.
You see everything needs to get done. Yeah, and you're like, how do I get it all done? And man, I don't know about you. I get stuck in analysis paralysis sometimes, where there's just so much there that I can't make a decision. I can't I don't. Do you ever get stuck there?
Well, hold on. Before you put it on me, how do you get out of that? How do you turn that around? How do you get out of, if you love to get in the data, how do you pull yourself up out of the weeds?
Well, I do a similar thing you're talking about, where I actually prioritize it, and I recognize the same thing you've talked about in that book, where there's only so much you can do in the day, and then I run it through a filter of am I the only person that can do this, or could somebody else do this? And rescheduling something. I that's actually on my to-do list today for something, and I'm like, could other people do this? Yeah, somebody else could make those phone calls and get something rescheduled. That probably shouldn't be on my plate. So I run a filter but there's other things like, hey, let's record this podcast. Nobody else can do this. That has to be me. And so I prioritize to okay, what are the things that only I can do? And then the things that I know could somebody else, then I really have to fight hard to delegate out all of those things. And the temptation is just to pick it up and do it. Because like you, I'm a grinder, I'm a doer, and it's let's just get it done. I identify what is only me, and then everything else I try to get off my plate. But I failed today. I got some stuff on my plate that other people could be doing, but I got it. I'm going to do it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I think that there's always too. It's so we talk about in IEB and just in general as business owners as we grow. I think you talk about, okay, well, I'm building this great team, but people go on vacation, things happen. You have an ethos in your business, and you're like, okay, it's more important to carry the line than it is to stand on principle and say, well, I'm not going to do it because I'm not doing inspections anymore. I'm out of the field. Well, right. I am until I'm not.
Yep.
And then you dust off everything and you show up, which is why actually normally I wouldn't be wearing a work shirt. I'd be wearing a fun, colorful, a little more but today I got 3 people on vacation, and after we're done today, I'm going to go get in my car. I'm going to go to in the field, and I'm going to go do an inspection because it was more important to take care of that agent and meet their needs, especially obviously now with the market being a little bit down, all these things. You're like, well, what's the priority? Well, the priority is outside of what's important to me and what I believe. I'm in business to take care of other people. So let me go take care of them, even though it's not what I really want to do. I mean, I want to sit here and talk with you because this is way more fun and do other, I want to, so I think giving yourself permission, it's like a budget, right? Like your business and prioritization, if you have a list, that's such a great start. But if you then take that list and you prioritize it, you're so much better than most other people. And now suddenly when you're making decisions based on that prioritization, and then, you might, like you said, then say, you know what, I really want to do this, but I'm going to give it to some junior person because it's a great opportunity for them. And so you're always struggling, I think, as a leader to do both of those. It's this pull and push of different things, and your employees aren't necessarily going to pull those things to them. So you have to sometimes give them the softball, that's like something you like to do too, and, growing them. So kind of a circuitous route to that question. But for me, it's prioritization, systems, and having real conversations, unfortunately, with myself.
You ever sound like a crazy person talking to yourself? Yeah. I do it out loud sometimes.
It's like left, right, left. Oh, wait, I'm here by myself.
Yeah. That's funny. So in that, like, you're talking to yourself, what are the things that keep you up at night? What are the things that, like, mentality, mind, or kind of in that mindset, but then that self-talk, what's the self-talk? What are the things that, like, I don't know, like, that bother you, that you, like, have a hard time letting go of?
I think the biggest thing for me is realizing that I don't have the same money pressure in the business that I did when I was younger. Like, things are stable. Like, I'm paying myself a salary and I'm taking some draws, but as things are going, I worry about the staff. You know, the market's down, they're not getting as many hours, right? There's not as much money. I did a bunch of analysis that try to be poignant to, you know, the time of where we are right now, with market being every market I think is down between 20 and 40%, maybe even 50% in terms of transactional volume. So that translates to my team, my services team. I calculated that we were down 110 inspections in the month of July. I mean, I know some inspectors don't do 110 inspections a year, right. But that was what we were down in the month of July, which translated to my team to over $2,500 for each person that they didn't make.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal. That's a big deal. And that's what keeps me up at night. It's about them. You know, now I have 12 people in my company. You know, we have 8 inspectors, full-time inspectors. We have radon technician, 1 radon tech, office staff. And suddenly you start thinking about, you know, I want to be a good leader for them. And it's so interesting. And I think what keeps me engaged is it's not about Greg anymore. It's about the team. It's about how do I take it away from me and make it about them. Yep. And obviously we all have big egos, you know, and when we started in the inspection business and you walk in and you get to be the smartest person in the room and you get to control everything.
That feels so good, doesn't it? You're like, everybody looks at you like you're all like, wow. Yeah, you're like, yeah, I'm the smartest guy here. If you only knew. Yeah.
Well, unlike you, like I have all this white hair, so I have instant credibility. I show up on site.
Well, no, but I'm bald, so I think that might. They can't tell how old I am, you know. So like,
there you go. But you have all that nice color in your beard, so it makes people, you know, it's
starting to go a little bit on the sides. Yeah.
Well, that's the credibility. See, it is.
I was trying to get some Just for Men maybe and like clean it up, but I was like, you know, I embraced my baldness. I started losing my hair in my early 20s, and I was like, I'm not gonna comb it over. So I was like, I just embraced it and started shaving it in my 20s, and then the beard, I'm like, it's getting gray, and I'm like tempted to do something, and I'm like, no, don't be that guy, you know, just embrace it, let it be.
No, it's great. Well, I think, you know, but I think, hey, you know, it's important to talk about the physical stuff, you know, like we're all, you know, I think every person, right, you're self-conscious. A little bit, you know, like, hey, my beard, does it look okay? Does my hair look okay? I had to start wearing glasses a couple years ago. I was like, well, I don't really love wearing glasses.
It makes you look smarter. I can't see.
Well, God knows we need to look smarter.
That's right.
You know, because if there's a mistake that you can make probably as a business owner, I probably made it twice. Yeah. So I don't know if that makes me smart or, you know.
Experienced.
There you go.
Just experienced. Yeah, man. That's funny. All right, so now this is something that I think is funny. We briefly talked about this a little while ago, and whatever it was, a week or two ago, and you said that you have like catchphrases, like I don't know if you call them like Gregisms or what do you usually like? Oh, I got some. Like, you said something. It's like, yeah, it's one of my catchphrases, and I was like, that's hilarious. Like, do you have any more of those? Like, what are some catchphrases?
I can't remember which one I told you, but my family just rolls their eyes, and it's like total like dad joke kind of thing. But
yes,
it's like always the same, like. You know, I'm the guy who literally, when you go by the cemetery, will say, hey, how many people are dead in there? All of them.
Yeah.
I mean, my dad told me that. I just can't get it, you know. But my favorite, but when it comes to business, I think the things that I say a lot are, you know, if it was easy, right? Everybody would do it. Like, that's really true.
So true, man.
And my oldest son yesterday failed his driver's test on some technicalities, you know, like silly stuff. Like, he's a good driver. I've been driving. I mean, he used to drive me to, you know, like, anyway, he just was lazy getting his license. But I said to him after, you know, I said, look, man, I said, everything worth having was a struggle to get. Yeah. You know, like, diamonds come from pressure and time and really crazy. And same with business. And I say that and I mean it, like you have to be, be gritty. So a couple of things I say all the time are, what got you, the what got you here won't get you there. I say that all the time too,
That's a good one.
And there's a book too about it. But the thing is, just simply put, as a business owner, and I'm spending all my time talking as a business owner anymore because that's my passion, right? Is to be a leader and be a better leader. And so I do a lot of listening. I've read in the last, I'd say in the last four years, I've listened to over 120 books on Audible.
Wow.
And I go through spurts. So when I'm exercising, like I go for hikes or I go for a bike ride, I actually listen to audiobooks while I ride my bicycle. Keeps my brain clear. But the other thing I'd say, one of my things I say a lot to people is that, that we talk about being a mirror for other people. A lot of people don't really understand what that means. But if you put forth positivity, you're going to get positivity back.
Yes.
And what I say to my staff is, and this is kind of more like transactional, but when somebody calls and they call on the phone and you're super nice, and when somebody calls and answers the phone at my office and you're a home buyer, which to us is a customer, then you say to them, congratulations on getting under contract. We know how hard that is. And people are like blown away that we're taking a moment out of like where we could just be an order taker and transactional, where we stop and say
how many square feet.
Yeah, like forget all. We'll get to all that. It's like, hey, congratulations. Yeah. I know how hard you guys work to get there. And so like the reason I say that is so then now fast forward to the inspection. And so now the inspector missed something. The inspector missed something stupid, or something major. Yep. Well, but the inspector was also then very nice and thorough and hopefully, but let's say we missed something, like forgot to write down, whatever it is, doesn't even matter. Like there was a leak under the sink and you forgot to write it down. Well, now that customer is like, well, wow, they were so nice and gracious when I called them on the phone. The inspector showed up on time. The report was really good. Yeah, they missed this one thing. Well, now we're humanized. Right? We're not order takers. We're not robots. Right. We're compassionate. We're real people. Well, suddenly they have compassion for us. And so, it's just interesting to me. Like, so I say that a lot. I talk to people about being gracious and being a mirror for other people, which, is being positive. And you can't treat other people poorly and then expect everything in your life to come back rainbows and butterflies. It just doesn't work that way.
It's true, man. It's true. Yeah, that's.
I'd love to hear what you do. What's your catchphrase? What is your?
I got a few of them, and so one of them is and people quote it. This is one that I say so much that they constantly like quote it back to me, and I say not with that attitude. So like
there you go.
Yeah, and so like at the gym, like I work out at Orange Theory. It's a program. So
I know it. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's great is that there's a community there, and same people are always back. So there's like regulars at every class, and so I've been there for 4 years, and it's just wonderful. But I was there, and I was getting on the treadmill, and there was another lady next to me, and we're all regulars, and she was like, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to do very good on this challenge today. And I was like, not with that attitude, and she, and it just comes out, and I don't like mean to be a jerk. I was like, not with that attitude, you're not, and I'm like, beep, 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 and I'm running on the treadmill, and she like is kind of like walking and like looking at me, kind of like, did you just say that, like, and I was like, turned over and I was like, sorry, it just came out, and so anyhow, she dialed up her treadmill and set a personal record that day on her treadmill. And like, she gets off the treadmill and she's like, I set a PR today on that thing. Cause you're right. Like not with that attitude. Yeah. And so now I have like other people in my life that they'll say that back to me. And I'll be like, not with that attitude. And they're like, screw you, man. And then give it a week or 2 or 3. And then something will come out of my mouth that is like a negative, and that should be a positive, and like I'll do the same thing, man. I'm just as guilty, but then now they'll throw it back and be like, not with that attitude, and I'm like, you know what? You're right. Thanks for calling me out on that.
It's great.
it's a fun thing I do. It happens in the office. It happens everywhere in my life. That's one of my catchphrases. And then the ones my kids hear all the time, and they are so tired of it. And they'd be like, I know, Dad, I know. And so I'm always like, your friends are like an elevator. They're going to take you up or they're going to take you down, but they're not going to leave you the same. And so, and they're always like, yeah, okay. And so, but that actually, I think that applies everywhere in life, even as an adult. Like, who are your circle of people? They say that, you're going to be most like the top 5 people in your circle. What's their income level? You're probably going to be close to that kind of income level. Like the stats have come in on all the research that your top 5 in life all the way through is a good indicator of where you're going to end up in life. And so picking those people to be your friends and in your circle is important. And then I also tell my kids too, I said, well, it doesn't mean that you can't let somebody on your elevator that maybe you're wanting to go up and they're wanting to go down. The difference is who's pushing the buttons, like who's driving this thing. And so you're going to go up and go down. Because if they climb on you, if a negative person climbs on your elevator and they start pushing the down buttons on your elevator, you have to stop that. And you have to swipe it out and you have to go, no, we're going to go up today. We're not going to go down. And take control of your elevator and your car and your life. And so anyhow, that's my other one, up and down with the elevator.
No, I love it.
Not with that attitude. And there's probably a bunch more, but those are the 2 that people quote back to me all the time. Those are probably my biggest 2 that I say on a regular basis. Yeah. So I know. So you started your company. When did you start your current inspection company?
So the company, we started it in the end of 2015.
Okay.
I started with my buddy Kurt Klock, who lives down in Arizona now, but he had moved from Florida. We randomly knew each other in Orlando, and he moved here, and we weren't super tight. We were like cycling buddies. We worked like people you meet at the gym and work out with, and you see him all. Like I'd see him 2 times a week for 5 years, and then he moved here. Said, "Hey man, you're in my town. We need to get together." And I had an exit from another company and had some money, and I was ready to do something else, and I wasn't sure what that was. And so he took his experience. He was a mold assessor and did mold evaluations, then started home inspection. And we took that and we took some different concepts and we started our company together as a partnership. And we rode it that way for I guess 3-4 years. And then in 2019, I had a slightly different vision than he did. Mm-hmm. And so I offered to buy him out of the Colorado business. I did. Yeah, it was great. But it was of course like anything, there was like a little fit of friction, but we came out of it. And now I think our friendship and our business relationship, because we're still partners in the franchising company, he's the majority, which was great. We figured out that somebody needs to really be in charge, but if you want somebody else to be engaged, they need to have enough equity or skin to bring some love. And so it's great. So we have a love as friends, great. We've got all this stuff that's going on. And what happens is now, you have a guy that you've been through a lot with. You've made a lot of money together. You paid him, for his part of one part of it. And so it was really interesting. But what was really, I guess the part of it that's really exciting for me is I wasn't sure that I wanted to be a business owner, like that I was the guy to lead. I always thought I was a better number 2. Like I'm a guy, I was the guy behind the guy for a lot of my career. And I did a lot of things like that. And I never felt like I was the guy to be out in front. And then I woke up one day and I was like, I think I really have a really clear vision of what I want this company to be. And I did that. I bought him out in September of 2019, and I basically doubled the business in a year and a half, like less than a year and a half. And so
what was the catalytic moment there? That whole to double the business, like to take that kind of trajectory and just launch from that. What were some of the maybe key principles or things right in that pivot that you thought this is what really led to that explosion of growth?
I really decided what business we were in. That we were in we were there to be of service of others, and that we were that we weren't important. I think the industry is stuck where the inspector shows up, and this is just my opinion. The inspector shows up and they're the center of attention, and they're trying to command everything and be like this bigger thing than they are. When really the inspector is like let's say that I'm going to use the analogy that a real estate transaction is like a watch, like a Swiss watch. Well, the watch is telling time and it's doing all these things, and it's all these things are happening all the time. The inspection is literally just like one little tick mark on the face. And once it passes a moment in time, it's over. But we're trying to hold on to it and try to self-identify that it's important. And honestly, what you want is, I would say it's like doing a sewer scope, right? What you want is the what comes back to be no big deal. Right. It's like it's like a nothing burger. So if you think about like, how can I make that moment in time, like, and so some of the tenets of the business, it's so funny. When you ask me like, oh, what are your taglines? Of course, right then I blanked, right? But I would tell you the thing I say all the time is we're like, we don't make the news. We just report the news. So we're old school, like Walter Cronkite and those guys. So that in our business, so when I figured all that out and I laid it out, and then, I mean, it's been an interesting journey. So we've totally transformed, the marketing, the messaging, the reporting, the things we do. And anyway, but the catalyst was, I think, self-identifying like what my passion was, like what my passion for my business was. Mm-hmm. And then there was an inflection point a couple years later in 2021. I was bored. I was so tired of getting in my car and driving the entire ring around Denver and doing inspections and still being in the field with 5 inspectors or 4 or whatever I had, and I did all the training. I was, it was a lot. And so I went, this cannot be the future for me. I was in my 50s already. This is not the way I want to do it. And so it was like I took the inflection of the original moment was, I think, self-identification that it was mine, and I had a feeling and a passion, and then I instilled that passion in my inspectors, and that I think lives today because a lot of those folks are still with me. And then now it was a year later, it was, okay, well, how do I raise my game? How do I, I think they would say in like the teaching world today, they say level up. How do you level up your kids or, level up your staff? And I had to level Greg up first. A couple levels.
Wow. Yeah.
And so from 2019 until now, because I wasn't sure if I was worthy, when I bought my partner out, I had this idea, but I didn't think I was worthy, which is why I read or listened to a bazillion books, because I literally was like, all right, I mean, I have an MBA. I'm not a traditional home inspector. I mean, I have an MBA. I was a management consultant, but I'm kind of a house dork, I love old houses. And so, the joke around here is when you talk to Greg, you get all of him, all this is how my brain works. I go, I'm like a tangent a second, but the passion for the people and helping people, that's and I talked
so good.
And I'll just tell you this little thing is, my experience with IEB has been really interesting, because I found IEB at that moment when I was ready to maybe exit or sell my business, and I found like a brotherhood or sisterhood or companion, with other people that are like-minded and want to elevate their game. And it allowed me to then go, I've always thought of my business like I always called it 3 legs of the stool. I was like, I got sales. And before I started using the nomenclature we all do, but I was like, well, yeah, you got operations, and then you got sales, and then you've got inspections. And I always called it the 3-legged stool, and I still do that today. So for me, it was, those are the kind of the steps that have led to it. And now we're kind of doing what the next phase of that, which is trying to bring in some more leadership and, get myself, give some more work away.
Yeah, that's so good. Like I sympathize with that. I joined IEB not that long ago, and about a year and a half ago, and it was the same thing. The company was growing. We were adding inspectors. Things were really headed in the right direction, and we've seen our revenue go up, and sales are going up. Demand is through the roof, and everything was growing and booming, and things were going really well. But it felt like chaos in some senses, because I had the idea of like, well, we've got to have like an operations department and like a field, like we got inspectors and we got operations, and then we have like sales, right? Marketing or whatever. And I had the same basic concept. It's like there's a 3-legged stool, but the way IEB teaches that is it puts it into such a clearly defined structure. And then they take it even another level, which I hadn't done yet, was that they connect financially, they connect your budget to those departments, and they pushed, and I was kind of doing that, but what they've really helped with is getting that really fine-tuned. So now I know my percentages, and I know, like, okay, I got to make sure that my field services department stays within this percentage of budget of the revenue, because if it starts costing me more than that, well, that is now I'm going to have a trickle-down effect all the way through. Or same with operations or anything else. Is like if I run everything runs over, then all of a sudden you could easily grow your company into bankruptcy if you're not careful, because you'll overspend, and then by the time you're like, well, I'm going to add this other guy, and then you realize, wait, I'm actually losing money right now. Like, wait, what's going on? And you realize, oh man, I've hired these guys and I got this thing going and I got this system, and you're like, well, now I got to change everything. And the stuff you have to change is messy if you have to change it. And so if you're an inspector that is like wanting to grow your company, get in with IEB and understand that, like, hey, it's gonna help you. You know, the systems and tools are going to help you be able to scale at a healthy, sustainable rate. And if you do it right, then as an owner, you're taken care of, and then your employees are taken care of, and everybody's taken care of, and you have built something that is sustainable and will stand the test of time, and even stand the storms. Like right now, we are all in the middle of one of those storms where interest rates are bouncing around a little bit. So now we have buyers and sellers kind of like flexing in and out a little bit of like, should I sell, should I buy? And it's a little bit of a funky season in real estate, and it'll come out the other side. But if you're living on a razor thin edge on your budget, and then you're not going to be able to handle bumps in the road. And so IEB's prepared me and my company to be able to handle these little bumps as they go, because I've built it in such a way now that everybody's doing well, and now everybody's happy, and we have a lot of trust within our structure. And I know we're recording this in August, and although it may not air for another month or two, but depending when it gets aired, maybe everything's turned around, you know, or maybe it's all gone to hell in a handbasket, you know, you don't know. But like, it sets you up to be able to weather the storms of life, which I think is really good. So I got a question for you. So if you were coaching another company, let's say there was somebody who is a one-man inspection company wanting to grow, or they're smaller and they're wanting to go, and they listen to your story, right? And they say, man, this guy in 2019 made a shift and he took off. What are maybe some priorities? How would you prioritize? Because it can be a little overwhelming to kind of look at everything in your business. So what would you prioritize as maybe the top 2 or 3 things that hey, you should focus on this? And then we'll ask about pitfalls. What are some things you watch out for? But yeah, what are maybe the 2 or 3 things you say, like, man, if I had to do it again, these are the things I would absolutely make sure my attention was on?
Yeah, and I think just if I take a little step back for a minute, just so people know, last year we did 2,700 inspections as a firm. So just to give a little sense of scale, you know, and going back in our first year, we did 400 inspections, I think, 421. Okay. So I think that if I was going to, and I'll try to do this in a way I think that's maybe makes sense. So if I was a solo operator, I mean, I mentioned this to you before, I think in our conversation, is the thing that I didn't realize that's the most important, because I do mentor and coach other inspectors, and I love talking to people about business, and I so am open to sharing everything I know, because the world is full of abundance, right? And so I'm mentoring a small firm here in Denver a little bit, you know, just trying to talk to them about what they're doing, and feel like, you know, you can share with them. So what I would share with somebody, if you were at the beginning, I would say the first thing you should do is figure out why are you in business? What's your differentiator? Even if it's the same thing as other people's, but what's your passion? So you should write that down. Like, this is my passion. And I think if somebody went online and did like a simple mission statement, or IEB has really good mission vision. If you do those things early, it'll resonate with you, and then as you start to add the next person, then it gives them something that's tangential that they can grab, you know, they can hold. It's tangible, so they're able to say, this is who we are. And so when we look at, you know, Duke City Inspections, what do we stand for, right? Like, that's your company. Like, hey, this is what we are about. And so when you bring somebody in, I think the most important thing is that before you bring somebody in, you need to understand what they're coming into. And then the thing that I would tell the brand new inspector, and when I talk to franchisees in our business, I tell them, like, look, you don't know anything, and so you have to realize that you don't necessarily. This is where I'll just offer a slight differing opinion. Like, when you're new, don't go after the top agent in your market, like I did, because when you're not ready to take on, you make a stupid mistake, a rookie mistake, they're not going to use you again. And
Right.
so I can tell this story, like, I got the meeting because I'm not afraid to make a phone call. Well, I went in, we did an inspection, and our template wasn't as good as it should have been, and we weren't as dialed in. And so I'd say it like, I would say when you're new, it's okay to work with newer agents because you're both learning. And then I can tell you 5-7 years later, I have agents now that were brand new and I started working with them, and now they're running teams of 20. And so we've both grown together. And then once you get yourself and your process established and you're technically really proficient, then you can start marketing to all the big hitters because you know you're really solid. Yeah. And so I would say that would be kind of that operational services side. And then that's services. And then on the operational side, and I think we're just talking about this so perfectly, was you have to know your numbers. If you don't know your numbers, you cannot grow your business safely. I mean, if you think about your family, right? If you're just one of these guys who's like, well, I got $100,000 in the bank, I'm doing great. Maybe.
Yeah.
Right?
Maybe not.
maybe not. And so I would say we've always run when you have a partnership, it's really interesting. You have to run a really good budget because then you have to know who's getting what and how you're getting paid. And if you're a solo person, it's way easier to just go, hey man, I've got this much money, I'm doing great, and I'm just paying myself out of the checking account. I'm taking draws. And so I'd say a couple little milestones. So business-wise, and I'm not an accountant, and I'm not, but I would say if you're making more than about $250,000 a year, you probably need to look at moving to like an S corp. Talk to your accountant, and then you need to be paying yourself a little bit on, salary, a little W-2. And as soon as you can pay yourself some W-2, you should do that because you get a little bit of W-2, and then you can do some distributions, and you're starting to hedge, because most of us struggled at some point with paying enough taxes. And so you don't want to get, and so you're growing your business, and the next thing you know, you're,
oh yeah, Uncle Sam's going to get his too. Like,
you're going to get theirs. So these are like
he's not gentle about it. So you better be ready. Yeah.
I mean, did you ever do that? Did you ever get like behind?
No, I have not gotten behind. Great, thankfully. I mean, I think this is the first year where, I'm a little bit nervous. I mean, we're paying our quarterlies and stuff, but it is a little bit nervous. I want to make sure that, we're doing the right thing. But at the end of the year, if I owe a little bit, I still owe some or whatever, like, I think we'll be fine. But yeah, no, getting behind, and like, I hear the horror stories, man. And I'm like, I'm terrified of that. I just don't want to get behind. And because, man, trying to catch back up is brutal. It's brutal.
It's terrible. Yeah. Yep. And that's where the 20% profitability kind of a thinking and owning your budget. I'm a big believer in that. That's another methodology. There's a lot of really good things in IEB that I think for newer business owners, that if you can just start to implement a little bit at a time. Yeah. And so the other thing I would say is this is maybe counterintuitive, but don't get out of the field too early, because you're making 60% margin when you're in the field. And if your business is small enough, hire somebody to answer the phones, or if some people are using virtual assistants to do that. Like, that doesn't fit for me, but it might work for you. Yep. And if you can scale to get to enough revenue. And so what I see sometimes is I see people pulling themselves out of the field a little early, and then sitting there in their office and wanting things to happen, but they don't really have a mastery yet of business development or some of the things that they need to do. And so maybe coming out of the field halftime and then focusing on the area of your business that's going to help it grow the most.
That's really good advice, man. Because, I think that's really good advice. Because you end up with like that halftime idea. It's like, well, I want to get out of the field. Okay, well, how about instead of doing 2 a day, you do 1 a day? Right. And then you're like, now you're blocking out and you say, okay, now my calendar is I'm doing a 9 a.m. inspection every day. And then in your calendar, you have it blocked out from 1 p.m. until 5 p.m. I'm working on the business, making sure I'm moving it forward. And now like, cause you're right. You're at a really high margin when you're the guy out doing the work, cause you're not having to pay an inspector to go do the actual inspection. So now you still have, your overhead, you still have, your insurance and your vehicle costs and gas and tools and maintenance, and you still have all the other stuff that's there. But yeah, you're right. Instead of having to pay an inspector, now you're just paying yourself. I would say, like, when I went from myself to another employee, I knew that I was going to have to do that, and so I made sure I had enough bank to do it, and so I actually set aside $100,000. Which is probably a little overkill. But I set aside $100,000 because I realized, like, if I hire somebody, like, I need to be able to take care of them and their family. They're trusting me when I offer them a job that I'm going to be able to, like, they're putting their family, like, under my umbrella. And so I need to make sure my umbrella is
100%.
Sturdy enough to do that, right? Because it's like, man, if I bring you on and I don't have enough work for you, and now I'm going to lose you if I'm not able to do this. So I was able to put them on a base salary and say, hey, listen, here's your guaranteed base salary for the next however long it is. And so like, you're guaranteed this. So if business, like right now, I don't have enough business to pay you what you should be making, but I'm going to guarantee you this. And as we grow, you will get raises and be able to make this kind of money. And that was like, he went along for the ride and with me on that. But yeah, I saved up $100,000 in the bank, extra above everything else that we needed, in a separate, let's like, savings account. And I knew that if things got really tough, like, I knew that I was safe. I had a big safety net to be able to do that. And so I don't know. I think, you got to be able to do that. So then once we got to that place, it was like, okay, now we just have me and another guy. And well, guess what? That $100,000, I ate into it, like, because there's training, right? It's negative cash flow.
It costs a lot of money to train people the right way and do right by them.
Yeah, because they're not earning you anything extra, right? Like, you bring on your first guy. You bring on a guy and you gave him, like, I don't know, like, hypothetically, you say $50,000 a year while he's in training. And so you're like, okay, well, how long is he in training? Well, in the beginning, you don't know how to train people. So
he's been training a long time because you don't know what to do.
Yeah, you're like, I don't know, just shut up and, like, watch what I do, because you don't have a training manual. You're just like, I know how to do it, so how do I teach other people to do it? And so, like, you're like, so it takes 8 months to train your first dude, and you're like, man, I spent $40,000 like in payroll that was non-cash generating. You know, and so, I mean, that's a big number, right? Especially when you're a one-guy deal. It's like, man, I spent $40,000 in paying this guy in training. And then it's like, okay, now he's ready to go on his own. Well, now what's your business model? I'll tell you what mine is. Company vehicles that are wrapped with graphics and logos and branding. So now I got to drop another $50,000 on a van and shelving and tools and equipment and graphics and everything else. And so now this guy's ready to go out and do his own inspections on his own. I've spent $40,000 here and $50,000 here. I added it up. At the end of it all, it was $98,000. I
was going to say it's a $100,000 investment. Yeah.
It cost me $100,000 to get my first guy into the field. And then he gets out in the field, and the company profit on that is roughly 20%. How long is it going to take me to recoup my $100,000 investment before I ever actually make profit, right? And this is like the business owner mentality, and like, you have to sit down and go, okay, like, if you want to grow, it's not like instantly day one you're making more money with a second dude. It's like no,
close.
Not even close, right? So it's like, okay, well, now what am I going to do? And so now you have to add that up. Well, guess what? The demand was coming through so strong that it was like, well, now what are we going to do? Like, now I'm 100% booked and my other guy's 100% booked, and then like, now what, right? Well, do I hire more guys? I just dropped 100 G's on getting a dude in the field. Like,
that's crazy.
I don't know how you roll, Greg, but $100,000 is a lot of money to me. Like, that is a lot of money. I don't casually throw that kind of money around ever. And so I was like, is it worth it? And so I like had to do some soul searching. It's like, do I want to do this? And that was the fork in the road. It was like, okay, if we're going to do this, then economically, I need to make sure that we can actually do this and push the scale and push the envelope to be able to ramp up. And man, that was a tough decision. So I hired two guys at the same time. and for my
trained them
second,
together.
Train them together, right? And then that
smart.
time, guess what? It didn't take 8 months to get them trained. That time I got it done in less than 6 months because I'd done it before, so it cost me less money. But I'm doing 2 of them, so I got to buy 2 vans and do 2 graphics and 2 wraps and 2. Yeah. And so it was like, okay. And then we got them going, and then guess what? I hired a couple more. And kept like adding and adding and adding. But by the time, eventually you have it to where the system is paying for itself enough that, but like I didn't make money. Like I made money my first year, like, but not a lot personally. I actually didn't pay myself for another 2 years.
Ouch.
Yeah.
That's not good. That's not advice you want to be giving people. You need to. Everybody needs to be taking some money off the table every. That's you're worthy, right? I have a nugget for you. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. So here's why. I have other cash flow channels, right? And so I am in a unique position in that way that I do have other. This isn't my first company. This isn't my only thing in life. So I do have other investments. And so I tell people that when I say, like, I just didn't pay myself for a couple of years. And people are like, how the heck? And I was like, well, I've got other revenue streams in my life that actually pay my hard bills. And so I can feed my family without the business. And so now the business funds vacations and fun stuff. But and I just love it. It's just I love building businesses. It's fun. So, but yeah, like I just didn't pay myself because I was like, well, in order to scale fast, I just reinvested profits like crazy. I was able to get it done.
And that's a nugget I was just going to share for me is every time I put money, invest money, good, smart money into the business, it pays dividends.
Yep.
And
absolutely.
So I mean, it's just
where else are you going to spend $100,000 and invest it in something? If you're really good in the stock market, in the stock market right now, but where are you going to go? You can get some 10% money and some 30. How long does it take you to recoup that $100,000 if you invest it with something else? But if you put it in your own business, you have the ability to reinvest that dollar and get 100% back by the end of the year, and now you're able to make money. Like now your money's making money, and it's just, I think investing in your own company is a super amazing opportunity.
I always say I will always bet on myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I'll bet on me. I know, and for all those same reasons. And this is something for everybody who's new in the industry to think about. I read this in a book recently. Was every dollar that you spend on bettering yourself will turn into a 15 or 18x return in your annual income. So if you spend 10 grand if you spend 10 grand on yourself, you're going to make, you can make 150 grand more. Because if you put that money into the right training and the right thinking, it has to be, smart money, but you can really change your life. And I think that's where IEB comes in. You spend that money, you should be able to use those tools and the website and all the things to better yourself. And it sounds like so it's the same thing. Invest in you, invest in your business, and you're going to get the great returns.
Yeah. So Greg, you've casually mentioned this just in the conversation, and you and I talked a little bit more about this offline, but I want you to share with everybody else. You mentioned franchising and that you have a company. So what's the name of your company? What's this franchising thing you've talked about? Because I think franchising is a good opportunity for some, right? It's not for everybody, but I think for some people, franchising is a great avenue to go down. And so will you just share a little bit about your company and your franchising and what that looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. So the name of our company is Inspections Over Coffee. The idea is that we want to represent a brand that is that comes across more approachable. So, instead of being macho and our color scheme and our palette, most realtors are women. So I just straight up, like our color palette, all of our designs and everything are a little softer, a little more feminine. So that's the name. And instead of being, Greg Inspections, no offense to Greg Bryant, Greg and those guys in Texas, but
I won't tell
Inspections
them.
Over Coffee.
Secret safe.
Everybody hears the name and they're like, you can hate it. They're like, that's really stupid, but they remember it. But I hear all the time, oh, I really like that. And so a lot of times I'll be like, well, we couldn't call it Inspections Over Whiskey. But
so funny. I like that.
Yeah. But so the brand is, so basically the franchising idea is this. We have my partner Kurt and I built the business after he'd been in the business for 10 years. And now we have another 7 years collectively. We've really done probably 20,000 inspections under this umbrella of our brand. So you get the templates, the products, the resources for agents. We have tons of agent resources that bring value to agents. We teach CE classes. But what it's great for a new inspector, or franchise fees are kind of, it's not expensive to get in. And then you can build your business as big as you want. And the idea is that you don't have to then, you can go through training with us, and at the end of 3 months, you're going to be like somebody who's been in the business for probably 3 years, because you're getting the benefit of a template that's been developed over 15 years. You're getting all these processes, all this. You're not spending the time. You're getting a turnkey business in a box, so you don't have to trial and error it. You just have to go execute. So if you don't want to have to be a marketing expert, you don't want to have to be a guy who thinks, oh, I have to put myself in the client's perspective to create this flyer. I mean, you know how it is. When every time you put an ad out, like how long does it take to do a flyer? Or how long does it's hours and days. And so we do all of that for you, so you can go and focus on whether you're a BD person. If you really like BD and you want to not be an inspector, you can do that. You can start this business, send your inspectors to training, but you can be like Harmony and Greenworks. You can be somebody who's never been in an inspection business, never been an inspector. You own a business that does inspections. You don't have to be an inspector. You can also be, a single operator who wants to grow, but wants to get their hands dirty and become the technical expert first, which I actually don't. I like that model, because then nobody can pull the wool over your eyes. It's easier. Yeah. And so, but with us, it's low barrier. Like, it's not a really expensive. We're cheaper than obviously like some of the big names. We don't we're not into market saturation like some of the bigger name guys. But what you get is you get us, right? I think we're more fun. Like, we have a good time. We want to like I'm here. And well, we do like a lot of coffee, and the idea being that you can shortcut your business ramp up time, and you have all the tools and the learning curve. So that's it. So that's the way we're working with our franchisees right now.
Wow, that's awesome. So if somebody wants to learn more about it, where should they go? Do you have a website, or what's the best way?
Sure. Inspectionsovercoffee.com, click on the franchise link, and there's some really good, great info there. There's videos and information there. And and any inspectors that want to see kind of how we do it for agents, go and click on there, sign up as an agent, pretend you're an agent. You'll get our emails and things like that. You sign up, we'll send, there's lots of resources there. You guys can, steal ideas. It's fine. Big world. We are lots of room for all of us, and but the website, if you wanted to,
man, that's cool.
No, of course. Well, if anybody wants to, become an inspector and thinking about a franchise, you should check it out. It's, it's an easy way to get into the business without having to go through all the headaches and heartaches, and
Yeah, we all have to do that. I had to learn some stuff the hard way, man. Yeah.
As we talked about earlier, the no hair, the gray hair,
Yeah.
Save your hair. Buy a franchise.
There you go. Love it. Absolutely love it. Well, Greg, it's been great having you on the show. And man, it was just a great time hanging out with you. And so thanks for being here. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me. I look forward to chatting with you again. And, I think you're up to great things with your podcast. I'm super excited to hear some of the stuff coming out. So thanks again for having me, and congrats on getting this going. Super stoked
awesome.
for you.
Thank you, Greg. And for all those listeners out there, we'll see you next time.
You've been listening to Empire State of Mind for the home inspection industry and beyond. Our passion is to elevate the home inspection industry with mindset, strategy, and tools. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. For more, follow on Instagram at IEB Coaching. And don't forget to hit the website at www.iebcoaching.com. Learn about IEB at no cost and have all your questions answered on our open call once a month on the third week of the month. We hope to see you there, and we'll see you next time on the Empire State of Mind.